Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending today's lightning round on innovative energy efficiency products and services. I'm Dan York with ACEEE, and I'll be the moderator for this session. We'll start the session with a few housekeeping announcements and then quickly move on to our presenters, followed by some Q&A if time allows. First and foremost, thanks to all of our sponsors and ally members for their support of the Energy Efficiency as a Resource Conference and for ACEEE. Please use the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen to ask questions of the presenters. As moderator, I'll share your questions with the speakers once all the presentations have been made. And one note of difference for this session versus some of the others, we will not be moving to a Zoom room for post-presentation chatter and discussion. We will be able to extend the Q&A a little bit beyond the 2 p.m. Eastern mark, maybe another 10 minutes or so. So just stay on if you have some questions, and we'll use that chat function. So all of today's speaker presentations can be found in the speakers link in the program participant list to your left. And lastly, we ask everyone to complete the conference evaluation found in the resources. Anyone who completes the evaluation, includes their name and a testimonial, will receive a discount to attend the next EER conference in 2023, 2 years from now in Philadelphia. All presentations will be available for on-demand viewing within a few days on the Engagement Hub. Presenters' PowerPoints can be found on their page in the program participants section. So just as a bit of a background before I introduce our distinguished panel of speakers, today's session is a bit of a potpourri of energy efficiency innovation and ideas. Inevitably, when we're back in the early days of this conference, when we're organizing it and we requested abstracts and got many outstanding ones in, and there's always a set of them that are really interesting but don't quite fit the any one particular panel, and they're so interesting. We thought, well, let's collect these, and it's across the board, from compressed air to window coverings and triple pane windows, a whole variety of things that you maybe not be aware of or are emerging and are promising for incorporation into programs. So this one is a bit of a sampling, and we hope you enjoy it. The intent is really to increase awareness of some of these products and services and new approaches to doing programs, and make connections, so that we really encourage you after the event to follow up with the presenters and to learn more. I think they're all providing contact information, and that's all in the attendee roster that you have in your social platform. So we hope that you find this interesting. And now let's introduce the speakers. And I'm going to go through the whole set of them because, again, this is the lightning round. We want to kind of keep things moving. So I'm just going to give short bios on our 6 presenters today, and then we'll move right into the presentations. So first up is Enoch Lenge, who is a supervisor in the Eversource Energy Efficiency Department, where he's worked for 12 years managing various programs such as commercial retrofit and new construction, residential new construction, multifamily, and behavior. Currently, in his role as supervisor of the Eversource Multifamily Initiative, Enoch leads a team that focuses on working with multifamily property decision makers, implementing energy efficiency upgrades in their properties throughout Connecticut. Next up will be Alex Chase, who is a principal at 2050 Partners, a consulting firm working with leaders to shorten the path to carbon neutrality. Alex has supported utility codes and standards programs since 2004, and his work contributing to state, national, and international codes and standards has spanned hundreds of product categories and has played a role in shaping energy and water use and policy in individual states, the U.S., and beyond. Next up will be Allie White of Vermont Energy Efficiency Investment Corporation, who provides innovative program design, implementation, greenhouse gas emissions accounting, and technical reporting for energy efficiency utilities and for commercial industrial businesses. Her work spans energy and utility program development, market engagement and transformation, and new and existing building decarbonization. Next is Lucy Albin, who is the program manager at DNR International, where she provides analysis, research, and strategic support to several energy efficiency and data projects. She manages the Attachments Energy Rating Council, an organization that rates and certifies the performance of efficient window attachments. Next is Augusta Miller, who's the Director of Partnerships Marketing at Sealed. Sealed is a home wellness company that covers the upfront cost to modernize houses with the latest HVAC, weatherproofing, and smart home technology. And then finally, last but not least, is Tom Johansson, who's a Senior Program Manager with the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program, focusing on industrial systems and energy management. Mr. Johansson provides expertise in energy efficiency engineering, project development, and marketing of HVAC building industrial systems. So wide range of experts on all these different topics. So please enjoy this sampling, and let's first we'll hear from Enoch. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much, Dan. I'm just going to share my screen here. Right. Okay, thanks everybody. And Dan, I'm proud to be part of the potpourri, and I think I get very passionate about lots of different energy efficiency topics and technologies. And if you were to talk to one of my coworkers or folks on my team, they know that I get very passionate about Windows and the opportunity for influencing kind of, I guess what you might call the lost envelope measure. So what we realized as a utility, and also in talking to other folks throughout the industry, is that Windows don't usually typically get looked at as an opportunity for us to influence. So I'm hoping that listeners today can take away two things. One is how we can all be part of influencing the market, the window market, and how kind of scaling up to a high performance triple pane is an opportunity that is doable. It's not impossible, and how to overcome those barriers to make it possible. So this is a lightning round, so I'm going to fly through a lot of these, but I look forward to anybody reaching out to me to follow up with any additional questions. So just to put into perspective the opportunity, so the amount of windows that gets purchased on an annual basis in single family and multifamily buildings throughout the US is tremendous. So 57 million windows annually get purchased and installed, and the impact from an energy cost standpoint is $50 billion annually. So I think what is interesting here is sometimes with energy efficiency measures, we tend to have to convince people to do upgrades. Like, people are not thinking about insulation as an example, but homeowners or property owners and managers are thinking about doing windows. It's just how we influence them to think in a more efficient and kind of going to a higher performance level. So I'm just going to skip that second section on kind of the longer term so that we can save time here. But I wanted to just show this because it really shows what we've done in the past and what we can do moving into the future. So in the past, single pane windows used to be the norm and the standard until the mid 70s. And so moving into mid 70s into the 80s, double pane windows became the norm, but it took influencing the market with Energy Star standards and other partners being involved. And so you can see the adoption in the blue, moving to the point where we are now, in the 2015 timeframe. This chart was, kind of mapped out until where you can see that it took a long time, but we were able to influence the market to a low E, high performance double pane. So the next step is how do we take those 57 million windows that are installed per year and transform that to a higher performance level. So right now, only 1.7, a little less than 2% of windows that are installed are a high performance triple pane. So why is it that we haven't been able to influence the market? Well, a lot of manufacturers, as well as architects and property owners and managers and builders, say it's too expensive and the ROI, the payback is not there to go from the cost difference. And there's some other reasons too. They're a little bit heavier, a little bulkier on the framing, those types of things, and that there's no demand. But I'm just going to explain how we were able to overcome some of those barriers. So there's the term from this movie Field of Dreams: if you build it, they will come. And I think that was my team and I's vision, was if we create something that solves a need and is attractive enough, then and understand the industry, then we can get some interest in this. So we created an offering at first for multifamily properties, and then more recently for single family properties. And this is specific to Connecticut, our Connecticut programs. And just to put in perspective, Eversource is a 3-state utility: Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire. So before I just go over these details, I will say this is specific to Connecticut. But the exciting thing is that after running this and offering this for about 5 years, 6 years now on the multifamily space, and introducing it in our single family space, we're also moving this into our Massachusetts programs coming into 2022 as well. So what we did was we created an offering for replacement windows to go to a triple pane window with a U value of 0.2 or better. And to put in perspective, the current kind of standard of what you typically see installed is a 0.27 Energy Star window. And so going to a triple pane window with a 0.20 U value provides about a 25 to 30% difference in energy savings. So what we've been able to do is, with incentives, is cover at least 100% of the cost difference, and sometimes more than 100% of the cost difference, to go from what somebody was going to do in those 57 million windows that get installed per year, to convince them to go to a triple pane. So over the last 6 years, 5 years since 2015, on the multifamily side, we've done about 40,000 triple pane windows across 150 projects. That's both low income and market rate properties. It's a mix. I would say more on the low income side and less on the market rate side, but it's been a good mix. And then recently in 2020, we launched a triple pane window rebate, and it's $100 per window. So we designed it so that it would pass our cost effectiveness testing, as well as provide enough incentive, like rebate value, to cover the cost difference between a standard residential size double pane to triple pane window. So how do we do this? How do we break through some of the barriers? It really took working closely with manufacturers. And the quick example I'll give is working with Harvey Building Products. So the reason why triple pane windows typically don't have a demand is because typically most manufacturers that offer a triple pane window only offer them in their high-end window, which is the most expensive window that they sell. So what we did is we worked with a company, Harvey, to ask them, is there any way that you can modify your design and build a triple pane window on your middle of the line window, the Harvey Classic? And they said, yeah, we can do that, and we can reduce some of the framing a little bit and make it more cost effective, to the point where most of these four and now it's more window manufacturers we've been able to work closely with have been able to offer a triple pane window that's only about 29% more expensive than the double pane. So working with these partners is very critical in getting to a solution that is cost effective, but it took a lot of time and effort to do so, and we're still working through that. So lastly, I just wanted to mention that what's the next step in scaling? So right now, our single family program and multifamily program is kind of like what you would call downstream process or rebate. So on the single family side, somebody purchases and installs windows with a contractor, and then they get a rebate afterwards. Same thing on the multifamily side. So what we envision is, in the future, is to really influence that 57 million, windows per year that are installed, is to create more of a midstream or upstream model where you're doing an instant discount right at the supplier or distributor level to buy down the cost of a triple pane window. And so if I was a contractor or a homeowner having the option to put in a more efficient window and it was instantly discounted at the purchase and there was no cost difference or minimal cost difference, I think that makes the decision a lot easier to do so. And that is my story and my excitement on triple pane windows. I look forward to answering any questions later on in regards to this topic. But thanks everybody for the time. And I would like to pass it off now to Alex.
Thanks, Enoch. Thanks also to Dan and ACEEE for hosting. I'm going to talk about Codes and Standards energy efficiency programs and highlights from a recent Minnesota project. The funder for this project was Minnesota Department of Commerce. For those not familiar, Commerce oversees energy efficiency efforts for the state of Minnesota and funds research projects like this one. 2050 Partners led the project with assistance from LHB, MIA, and Slipstream. We had a great technical advisory group. We had 6 of the largest utilities in Minnesota providing input. We had some really important nonprofit and research centers in Minnesota and also the city of Minneapolis. We had 2 high-level goals for the project. One was we wanted to provide recommendations to develop a Minnesota Codes and Standards program. And second is we focused on the utility side and wanted to make sure there was a pathway for utilities to potentially administer a program and participate and claim savings from the Codes and Standards activities. So what's the motivation? As utilities and program administrators are thinking about what's next in terms of how to fill savings within a future portfolio, Codes and Standards can be a really important tool within that toolbox. This graphic is from a LBNL study that looked at energy efficiency programs across the United States. They found that Codes and Standards programs was the most cost-effective significantly. In the gray bar over here, an estimated cost of 0.27 cents per kWh delivered from a program administrator cost. And you can see how that compares to residential, C&I, and low income. We studied the Codes and Standards program models that are in development now across the United States. There's a number of states, utilities that are doing Codes and Standards activities. The most robust are in California, the Pacific Northwest, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New York, and then a number of other states. But this highlights some of the program success from probably the largest and longest running utility sponsored Codes and Standards program in California, which started around 2000. The red line shows the percentage of Codes and Standards budget relative to the rest of the energy efficiency portfolio. You can see for a number of years it was down 1, 2, 3%. It started to rise up to about 8%. You could also see the savings from Codes and Standards started pretty slow, and then about 5-10 years in, it started to really take off because there's a bit of a lag between the budget spend and when you get the savings. But now in California, the program is contributing to the majority of the savings in the portfolio, with 74% of the demand reduction, 69% of the electricity savings, and 41% of the gas savings in 2021. Our report provides about 50 plus recommendations for launching, implementing a Codes and Standards program. We also put together a companion scenario model, which is Excel-based, allows users to do saving scenarios, perform sensitivity analyses. Both are available at the project website, link listed below. We go deep into specific recommendations for what we call different sub-program areas. Codes and standards is broad, and you can go in a number of directions. We highlight 7 different distinct initiatives, including supporting building code advancement at the state level and also appliance standards advancement at the state level. At the national level, we talk about how you can get involved in Department of Energy appliance standards or national model codes such as ASHRAE and IECC. We talk about what compliance improvement programs look like in terms of educating stakeholders. We have a section on local engagement, and particularly in states where programs are working with local jurisdictions that want to go above and beyond the code for developing either stretch codes or reach codes. Code readiness is all about collecting high quality data now that could be leveraged in the future to support future advancement efforts. And then planning coordination is all about interacting with either internal or external stakeholders within the utility for stakeholders that are impacted by codes and standards. So obviously I don't have time to go into all 50 recommendations. At a high level, some cross-cutting recommendations for folks thinking about codes and standards programs. They can start small and probably should, and then you can kind of build it out over time. But if you're going to get into it, you need to have a long-term vision and commitment, because the program does take a number of years to get some momentum and to build up those savings. You want to hire the right experts to support the program. There's a lot of different types of avenues, as I mentioned in the previous slides. You want to have the right people in the right seat to support that. And if possible, try to develop trusting, collaborative relationships with the industries and stakeholders that are impacted by code and standards. And we've seen that often results in some of the most successful outcomes. So thank you. Just wanted to highlight that the final report, the scenario model, which I mentioned, is available at the project website. We also conducted 3 public webinars that go deep into various different aspects. Those are all available at the project website as well. Be happy to answer questions offline or in the Q&A section. And next we have Allie White with VEIC, who's going to talk about refrigerant management.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much, Alex, for the handoff. Make sure I can share my screen. Great. So thank you all for being here. We're really excited to be participating in this lightning round panel. And I'm going to be talking about refrigerant management and the path from kilowatt hours, MMBTUs, to greenhouse gas. So VIC is a mission-driven nonprofit organization focused on generating sustainable energy solutions to mitigating climate change. We provide non-biased third-party expertise that includes energy efficiency, building decarbonization, transportation electrification, and a focus on developing new approaches for a clean and flexible grid. We work across the country, and we have roots in Vermont, where we were established in 1986, and boots on the ground now across the country, and engage across all different sectors with our group of 300 plus employees. Some of the brands that folks attending this panel might recognize: Efficiency Vermont was the nation's first energy efficiency utility dedicated to serve the entire state of Vermont. And so we worked with the state of Vermont to create that in 2000, and we've been running it ever since. And we also operate energy efficiency programs for the District of Columbia and for communities in Ohio through the Efficiency Smart program. So I'm going to be talking about refrigerant management specifically in the utility space, how it can be integrated into both existing programs and how it can be a really amazing bridge between kilowatt hour savings to broader decarbonization goals in carbon dioxide equivalent. So why refrigerant management in general? Why should we all be caring about this? The IPCC Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, in one of their most recent reports, identified that to remain below global warming worldwide of 1.5 degrees Celsius, we need to specifically reduce HFC emissions by 70 to 80% by 2050. And why is that? HFC refrigerants are the predominant refrigerant chemicals that are in all refrigerant-based systems, so commercial industrial refrigeration systems, as well as refrigerant-based HVAC systems. And they're part of what are known as short-lived climate pollutants. So they're up there with methane in terms of being very impactful, very potent greenhouse gases that have a short atmospheric lifetime. And so addressing those as soon as possible is really of the utmost importance in the fight against climate change. And just to give a sense of how potent they are, their impact is measured by global warming potential, which is how harmful is a greenhouse gas relative to carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide has a global warming potential of 1. It's the baseline. 1 pound of 410A, which is in every heat pump currently in the market, just 1 pound leaked of that is equivalent to 2,088 pounds of carbon dioxide. So they are incredibly potent greenhouse gases, and unfortunately, they do leak in pretty much every application, from a grocery store to a residential heat pump to a VRF system. And so as we're electrifying buildings more and more, we really need to be focused on targeting these greenhouse gas emissions. And so why should utility programs kind of take up refrigerant management as a cause? First of all, utilities are increasingly being tasked with contributing to statewide decarbonization goals. There are, that looks different for every utility and for every public utility commission for negotiating what can and can't count towards those goals. Assuming that it's a broad target, refrigerants are really the low-hanging fruit of greenhouse gases because they are such powerful greenhouse gases. They have a relatively straightforward emissions boundary. It's on-site emissions. It's not as complicated as looking at the energy mix or figuring out electric transportation, for example. And as utility heat pump programs are really deploying these en masse in states throughout the country, and building electrification is seen as kind of the silver bullet of decarbonization, we really need to acknowledge that we're adding significant refrigerant loads to buildings where there previously weren't, and the potential negative impacts of that. Refrigerants are 4 to 6% of total state emissions, kind of vary state by state, but pretty much across the board, grocery stores, heat pump systems, and that percentage is only going to increase as we're electrifying more and more of heating and cooling systems. Refrigerant management measures, which I'll talk about, do offer both energy and non-energy non-energy savings. So it's an ideal bridge from traditional metrics, working within the existing framework, meeting your acquisition costs, and then demonstrating the case, the ability, the need to transition or add in a greenhouse gas metric. So the strategy for utilities, I'm going to be talking about what we've done in Efficiency Vermont. And we've really taken a 3-pronged approach. So proactive refrigerant leak repair and installing permanent refrigerant leak monitoring systems, especially in larger commercial systems, such as in a grocery store. We've been able to calculate energy savings for that through OpenStudio modeling. Refrigerant retrofits, again, mostly looking at larger commercial systems. There are drop-in replacements to take the existing refrigerant out of the system and put in a newer one that has a lower GWP. And there are both energy and non-energy savings associated there. And then in new applications, installing natural refrigerant systems wherever technically feasible. So we have demonstrated energy savings for all of these measures, and then the non-energy greenhouse gas savings associated with the refrigerant themselves is a very straightforward equation. How much refrigerant are we talking about? How much does it leak? And what's the global warming potential, the potency of the refrigerant in the system? So our path to greenhouse gas really started with some one-off pilot projects through our emerging tech and R&D departments, then custom projects once we had some verification of the energy savings potential for different measures. Working on market transformation, getting certain products into the state, in some cases into the country, that utilize natural refrigerants, but were not readily available or economically feasible in our state at that time. Contractor trainings as well. Our SES is a great resource. We trained contractors on self-contained region equipment, which you see a picture of, that uses a natural refrigerant. We do have some prescriptive offerings that we've evolved to. And then finally, we were recently, in our latest performance period, we added a greenhouse gas metric that allows us to count these savings in a formal way and have them count towards our goals established with the PUC. So I'm mostly going to be talking about that, the Efficiency Vermont Path to Greenhouse Gas. We specifically advocated to the PUC to adopt a greenhouse gas metric with refrigerant management measures in mind. As you are all aware, if you work in the utility space, it's a multi-year negotiation process, but we did get it approved, and that began this year for our upcoming performance period. And we were able to build such a strong case at the cost effectiveness and still being responsible stewards of ratepayer funds by adopting this metric through pilot projects, through R&D, and tracking our impact informally for a couple of years. Progress, not perfection. We still, these measures still need to have both energy and refrigerant savings in order to be supported with ratepayer funds. The refrigerant impact is not currently included in our cost effectiveness screening, which is a definite area for opportunity, but these measures do still screen within traditional cost effectiveness, total societal benefit screening. And only pre-approved measures can be used to claim the non-energy greenhouse gas. Right now, that's limited to C&I refrigeration. We are working on adding that to refrigerant-based HVAC systems. And C&I, so all the C&I measures that we have approved, commercial, industrial, this table really just underscores the importance of utilities' ability to claim both energy and non-energy, the refrigerant-based CO2e savings. As you can see, if we're talking just about metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent, the non-energy impact is so much greater than the energy greenhouse gas savings. That's obviously going to vary depending on what your grid looks like, but these refrigerants being such potent greenhouse gases really have an enormous impact. And I'm happy to talk about the numbers for these measures converted back into kilowatt hours as well, if folks are interested in that. But this just gives you a list of the measures that we've had initially approved. And then just looking at the projects that we've done, this was before we were able to claim the greenhouse gas savings. Natural refrigerants are highly efficient, just from an energy standpoint, when they're optimized, especially in colder climates. And so we've had great savings claim success, good paybacks, good average incentives, good acquisition costs, through our traditional framework. So I want to encourage everyone to view these as a potential, no matter where you are in the path to greenhouse gas. Thank you.
Hi, everyone, and thank you to ACEEE for the opportunity to present today. My name is Lucy Albin, and I'm the Program Manager for the Attachments Energy Rating Council, or AERC, and I will be speaking today about the building envelope. So windows are a major contributor to energy use in the United States, both in single-family homes and commercial buildings, and can contribute up to 30% of buildings' typical heating and cooling energy costs. So window replacements are rates are low to upgrading to more efficient window options. As we heard before about the opportunity with the building envelope and some of the barriers to adopting those more efficient technologies, such as the high cost of products and installation. This creates a large untapped savings opportunity for window attachment products to reduce a building's annual energy use at a more affordable cost. Window attachment products can vary from blinds and shades to secondary windows or storm windows, shutters, awnings, just to name a few. And there are several field studies and simulation have been done to prove the energy savings potential for these product types, both in cooling dominated climates and heating dominated climates of up to 30% in some areas. So in addition to, like we saw before, the proven energy savings of up to 30% for these technologies, which can be deployed in single family, multifamily, commercial buildings, as well as low income applications due to their lower price point. On top of that, window attachments can be packaged with other measures to improve whole building performance, such as integrating with automated shading and daylighting systems, whole building controls, and demand response. There are also a number of non-energy benefits, including reduced air leakage or draftiness, noise reduction, and glare control, which can all add to the comfort of the building occupants. Additionally, the installation process has minimal disruptions, especially compared to full window replacements, which can be very attractive to building owners and occupants. So obviously there's a very large opportunity for window attachments in the energy efficiency space because of the high savings potential and low cost. But prior to the formation of AERC, there was no consistency to rating to find efficient products in the market. And this is also, those ratings are also necessary for utilities to see the potential and compare efficient products to other products in the market. So that all led to the formation of the AERC in 2014. And we now have members made up of manufacturers, utilities, DOE, and national and international public interest and research organizations. So AERC aims to provide accurate and credible and comparable information about the energy performance of window attachment products, as well as to rate, label, and certify individual products. This allows for that third-party rating that is really key to differentiating high-performing products in the marketplace. And we can see an example of that in a second here. So at the current moment, AERC certification program consists of a number of residential products, storm windows, cellular, roller and pleated shades, blinds, solar screens, awnings, and roller shutters, as well as our first commercial product category, which was launched last year in 2020 for secondary windows. At this year, we're currently working on developing an automation rating, which will highlight the benefits of automating shading rather than relying on manual operation. And we hope to see that metric launched mid next year and see that used in the marketplace. So here are some examples of the residential product label on the left. This highlights the energy efficient ratings for each product that will have to be tested and simulated to verify those performance qualities, as well as the AERC specific rating, which is called the Energy Performance or EP metric. And there's one both for a cool climate and warm climate. And this is a number that can be used to compare the energy efficiency of products both within the same product type and as well as across categories. This is also an example mock-up of the commercial product certificate, and both the residential and commercial products that we have certified can all be found on our certified product website, which is has a public search function so people can find the products that are rated as well as their metrics. So there are a number of utilities that have shown interest in window attachment products so far. We work closely with several of these utilities to offer incentives for different window attachment products, such as low-E storm windows, shading, both automated shades. We have a pilot currently running for those, as well as cellular shades, exterior products, and then again, the commercial secondary windows are new to the program, but since last year of the launch, we've seen a lot of uptake with an interest in that product category, and we work closely with utilities to increase the adoption. In addition to having the third-party rating metrics and a ready-to-go qualified products list with certified products and their ratings for comparison, we have a number of other ways that we can support energy efficiency programs and utilities based on our experience with that and knowledge of the product types, so we can offer expertise on how best to integrate these products into a utility's portfolio. We are also working with a number of national efficiency campaigns and initiatives, including the Partnership for Advanced Window Solutions, which launched earlier this summer by NEIA, PNNL's Storm Window and Insulating Panel Campaign, Oak Ridge National Labs Building Envelope Campaign, and Energy Star. Both there's a storm window program that we're working with to have them incorporate AERC ratings as part of the qualification process, and also the Smart Home Energy Management System, SHEMS, currently references AERC's automation rating. So there's lots of exciting things happening with AERC. And that's all the time we have for today, but I encourage you all to check out our website for more information and what we're working on. And please also feel free to reach out via email. So thank you everyone for your time and for listening. And next we will hear from Augusta Miller. Thank you.
Augusta, you sounds not, can you check that?
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Lucy. And thank you to ACEEE and everyone here today for joining. My name is Augusta Miller. I'm Director of Partnerships at SEALD. And I'm excited to talk to you today about how we've been using marketing tests to find the right messages and visuals that resonate with customers when promoting deep home energy retrofits and specifically electrification. As Dan mentioned earlier, Sealed is a performance-based financing concierge services company. We cover upfront costs for homeowners to weatherize and electrify their home. We then match the customers with a local contractor and bill customers based on the energy savings after the project's been installed. So as a direct-to-consumer company that is pushing electrification and insulation and things that are not always easy to get homeowners excited about, we've had to do a lot of testing and find ways to make the messages and the visuals really hit home with homeowners. So I'm going to dive right into the good stuff, talking about a bunch of the biggest learnings that we've found, then run through some examples, and then lastly talk about some tips in terms of what we've found helpful when testing content. So some key learnings from our marketing testing that we've seen kind of boil to the top after a bunch of tests. First is we always try to present the problem and the solution through everyday homeowner pain points. We also are always trying to connect directly through the customer's eyes. So if we're educating a customer about how a heat pump works, we want to make sure that we're talking about the ways that the customer is going to interact or the benefits that they're going to feel in their home on a daily basis. And then lastly, and most importantly, is talking about comfort as the primary motivator. As a company that offers financing and concierge services, that's really the crux of our value proposition to homeowners, and ultimately often the reason that homeowners move forward with us. But we've found that when marketing, those aren't the messages that homeowners want to hear about at the very top of the marketing funnel. What matters most to homeowners whenever they're thinking about these kinds of upgrades is to really think about how is their life going to feel different, and how are their families going to be more comfortable in their homes at the end of the day after they've invested in these home upgrades. So I'm going to dive into a few examples that talk through, show some of these different illustrations. So this is an example on the left here of an ad that we ran, and you'll see it highlights some of the value propositions I just talked about. This unsealed sealed model is something that we've tested and seen really work really well for us. And we've got this kind of bumpy, clunky old heating system compared to what we like to call our happy heat pump, really light and clean and efficient. So we ran this model, again, leveraging a lot of things, and it worked pretty well. But then we tested it with the same audience against this ad over here on the right, which I've spared you all the noise, but it really hits that uncomfortable AC noise that you hear when you have a window AC running, and then moves forward towards the clean air conditioning solution through a heat pump. And we found that this ad on the right was 26% more cost effective when in reaching customers than the ad on the left. And our take here is really that the difference, it's showing the same thing, right? It's outcome of old heating system to new heating system. But when we bring it into the customer's home, when we really focus in on what they're going to be experiencing and how their comfort levels are going to change, that's where we see the big difference. The second here is an example of how we educate through customer experience. So again, on the left, you'll see we leverage the unsealed versus sealed model, and we show kind of a hot home gets the heat pump installed and then shows how the heat pump makes the home more comfortable. So leveraging a lot of our standard best practices. But what we found was when connecting with homeowners and getting them to understand the value proposition with heat pumps, something like the ad over here on the right, which shows customers that just through using your iPhone or your smartphone, I should say, you can switch seamlessly from heating to cooling. And it really shows exactly how the customer is going to interact with the heat pump. And we found that this ad was about 20% more cost effective in converting consumers to learn more about heat pumps. And then the last piece, this comfort is king messaging. I wanted to highlight some copy that we've tested. So we ran, 2 versions of copy against one of the heat pump assets that I showed earlier. One was opening line was AC lost its cool, and then it went into kind of the benefits and next steps about the product. And the other had the exact same copy, except the opening and the same asset, but the opening line was, is your furnace the oldest appliance you own? And we found that the first one, AC lost its cool, which connects with the homeowner on a how they feel basis, right? They understand that like their AC isn't working as well as it should, and it's probably making them hot. Was 76% more cost effective than when we took the more practical approach about, is it time for you to upgrade your furnace? Maybe, whether or not it's still working well. So, with all of this, the way that we were able to kind of come to these findings and really hone in on these messages was through testing. So a few tips, that we wanted to share in whenever we're doing testing and recommend for everyone doing these kinds of taking this approach is to always test against your previous best performer. That's, of course, seasonally relevant. So, we like to make sure that we're testing against the best so that the bar is always going higher and we're not kind of fighting in the middle range. The other is to run assets for the same technology or service whenever you're testing. We could test a heat pump ad versus weatherization ad, and that might be effective in identifying product market fit for a particular audience, but it's not going to help us understand what creative and what messages are really connecting with homeowners and getting them excited about these home improvements. By testing heat pump assets and messaging against other heat pump assets and messaging, we're able to really dive in about what is it about the messaging and the way that we're reaching homeowners that's making them move forward. And then lastly, we like to run multivariate tests so that you can test, multiple messages against different assets, that you can really understand, what visuals paired with what messages connect with audiences. And, we of course, and really recommend using targeting and really specific targeting so that you can test those different multivariate, approaches with specific audiences. As you can imagine, different messages will resonate with different geographies, different demographics. And so playing with those different combinations really make a big difference in terms of your overall performance and how you can reach homeowners and get them excited about making their homes more efficient. So with that, I want to say thank you, and I will pass it along to Tom.
Okay, thanks, Augusta. And my name is Tom Johansson. I'm a senior program manager here at ComEd, and I'm going to be presenting on a offering that we have in our industrial program. I manage the industrial systems program. And so next slide. We were seeing a real need out in the marketplace for our customers. In this particular area, it's compressed air systems, and we wanted to find the right solution. Next slide. Yeah, so we came up with a program. We call it Fix It Now Compressed Air, and it's exactly how it sounds. We fix compressed air leaks at our customer sites. In being one of those more pain points for an industrial customer, this was a great offering that we came up with. Next slide. So what was the goal of our program? Really, it's trying to find a cost-effective way to repair compressed air leaks, because in an industrial setting, almost every industrial customer has them. And as I said before, they're a pain point. They never really ever get addressed. We wanted to find a way that was able to both incentivize the provider that does the repairs and getting the customer moving forward and getting these compressed air leaks fixed. Next slide. So what we did is we really kind of started from scratch. We looked at, like I said, the issue, which was compressed air leaks. And we brought in service providers that are very active in our compressed air program. And we said, how could we create a program or an offering that would be something that's beneficial to you as a provider, but also get these compressed air leaks fixed? So what we did is, as I said, we kind of started from scratch and really worked our way up to what we could design as a program. And we made this program scalable so that it was available to any size compressed air systems, which was a big change. We separated it from our comprehensive studies that we do on compressed air systems. We wanted to be a no cost to the customer so that they wouldn't feel like they need to shell out money to get these repairs done. We wanted an incentive amount that was really clear and straightforward to the service providers so they knew how they were going to get paid for fixing the repairs. And we wanted to make sure that they could be done fast and easy so that, when they're out identifying leaks, they can fix them right on the spot and not have to check back in with the program and figure out what price they're going to have to, to be paid to get them fixed. And then on the side for the customer, we want to make it an easy sell. We want an application process to be easy. We want to be open to other service providers that maybe don't have the strong engineering strength that our rest of our program has. We want it to be a quick win for the customer, and of course make it cost effective to the overall energy efficiency portfolio. Next slide. So we're going to take a transition here into a video that we created that really kind of explains the program in a quick video format. So I'm going to let Nick run that video. Thanks. And then I'll be back to talk about some more information. Okay, thanks Nick for running that video, though there was some soundtrack that went with it. But anyways, so moving on to the next slide. So what was the results of this program? We started back in 2018. Next slide. And that was our first year offering it. We started in October. And you can see that it ramped up pretty quickly into 2019 and 2020. And of course, 2021's on track at the same level. But we've been able to achieve about almost 25 gigawatt hours of energy savings per year from this, just repairing compressed air leaks at customer sites. We've paid out almost $3.5 million in just those 2 years in incentives. And all those incentives, as I said earlier, they go direct to the service provider to identify and pay for the leak repairs. And it's really, like I said, the customer doesn't have to pay out any money, and they get their compressed air leaks fixed from that incentive amount. Next slide. And so some of the non-energy saving benefits that we've seen, because since we've launched this, we've been able to open up our service provider network to other service providers that really just focus on leak repairs. And so we've been able to multiply the number of service providers working. I think we're up to about 20, 24 service providers that offer our compressed air program. On the customer side, it helps improve the compressor performance without having as much wasted compressed air in the system going out to leaks. It minimizes the impact to product quality, so there's not this problem with pressure loss or other quality of air issues going on in the plant. It reduces the maintenance costs for compressors because they have to work less and produce less CFM. And then the overall lower sound levels in the plant so that the plant operators don't have to hear the compressed air leak noise, which can be a sound level exposure to them. Next slide. So this program is we're talking about innovation. This is an innovative program. There's not any others like this in any other utilities. Just some of the program innovations that I'd like to highlight. We can survey and leak repair projects can be completed in about a week. Previously to this, we had it would take sometimes 2, 3, 4 months to get leaks repaired for a customer site. Now it can be done in a week. It's really cut down on the time. The post-inspection time, the being able to go out and verify that these leaks have been repaired has been reduced because we are more in tune with what our providers are doing. We have a standardized workbook that automatically calculates the energy savings, and we've been able to have this standardized workbook approved by the evaluators so that there's not any question about how the savings are generated. There's predefined incentives, and the service provider knows exactly what those are so that he can or she can get these projects done quickly. We are able to do an average cost effectiveness over the whole program instead of just looking at an individual by individual project basis. And that allows us to have some projects that have a really good cost effectiveness and some that don't. But overall, it has actually lowered our cost per kWh with this offering. The structure of the incentive is pretty simple. We pay a survey cost based on the horsepower of the compressed air system. So that's like $6 per horsepower. And that's just kind of helps the baseline cost for the service provider to go out and do their survey work. And then for every leak that's identified, they get an additional $20 per leak so that we're creating an incentive to go find as many leaks as possible for the service provider. And then they get get up to $100 per leak to fix them. And this program has really generated where almost 80% of the leaks are repaired, as I said, in that 1 week time frame at a customer site. Next slide. And so we're kind of taking from a scalability standpoint. This whole concept is it's easily scalable to any location in the U.S. But we're also looking as we expand this fix it now concept into our wastewater treatment plant measures and process cooling and industrial refrigeration, where we can find some quick, easy measures that don't require a lot of analysis and then help the customer move forward on those projects. Next slide. So that's our program. I'd be happy to answer any questions in the Q&A session, and I'll turn it back to Dan. Thanks.
All right. We're bringing back everyone. Thanks to all you presenters. This was fascinating. I love sessions like this where I just get nice little nuggets of new information and learn some other things. So we did get a few questions. I will say off the bat here, we're running a little bit over, but I think we're good to go to, let's say 3:15 Eastern, so 10 minutes of Q&A here, and then we've got to wrap it. So I'm just going to run through these questions really quick, and thanks to all you who've submitted them, and actually for flagging the person you're asking. That'll really help things go here. So first, from Chris Grana for Enoch. Looking historically, Marvin helped popularize double-paned low-E windows with its integrity line. I noticed that you aren't working with them on triple pane. Do you have any insights about them, or what it will take to convince manufacturers to commit to triple pane for the long haul?
Yes, a good question. Thanks, Chris. So I think that is yet to be figured out and determined. Working with manufacturers, and we're open to working with any manufacturer, and we haven't had necessarily a direct communication with Marvin. Some of the manufacturers that we talk to are national, large manufacturers, and some of them are like regional. But I think the key is that if they see the demand, as well as it not causing a significant change to their manufacturing product line, then I think that they're open to it. So with that example I gave of Harvey, they used their existing product line, and they didn't have to change some of their details, like spacers of glass and things like that. They were able to use their existing line, but still cost effectively create a triple pane window, and our incentives made the demand increase. So I think kind of working through some of those details with manufacturers and having those types of open conversations are critical.
Very good. Okay, next question's for Allie. What natural refrigerants can replace existing ones without removing and replacing the equipment?
Yeah, that's a great question. I wish I had longer to talk about the nuances of natural refrigerants. Unfortunately, right now, none of the natural refrigerants are appropriate to drop into an existing system. They all have very specific thermodynamic properties, higher operating pressures, toxicity concerns that need to be addressed in a different way if we're talking about ammonia, for example. So that's where, for existing systems, we've really focused on keeping the refrigerant in the pipes, whatever it is. And so focusing on really comprehensive, proactive refrigerant leak repair. And then as systems become end of life, transitioning folks to a natural refrigerant.
Very good. All right. There's another question for you, Allie, but I'm going to jump to spread things around a little bit, maybe circle back to that. So for Alex, can you speak to next steps? Is Minnesota moving forward with a utility CNS program? What is the next step in Minnesota?
Yeah, great. I would say there's a lot of interest and I think momentum from the report. The utilities, a number of the key utilities in Minnesota are having some active meetings just within the last weeks and in the upcoming weeks to talk about what program administration might look like. Still a lot of details to get worked out around what sub-programs to focus on, how the savings would work out. And then I think stepping back, there's been a lot of activity in Minnesota for those that are listening in that know. There's been some legislation that's been passed that extends the energy efficiency goals and kind of expands some of the program activity to electrification and some activities on the demand side. There's been a new market transformation framework developed. So there's a lot of really interesting activity in Minnesota right now. And so, and some of it is interrelated. So I think the next steps are trying to figure out how that's all going to work out. But I think there is some momentum there in terms of this codes and standards program.
Very good. All right, I'm going to jump. Here's a question for Tom. Were the energy savings modeled and or calculated, or were actual energy reductions measured?
Yeah, so when we do leak repairs, we use it's kind of a industry standard to use ultrasonic detectors to find and locate the leaks. And when we do that, we record down the decibel readings on that from the ultrasonic detection. In that decibel reading, there's kind of an industry standard for converting that decibel reading with the pressure that's in the system and converting that to a CFM. And so that transition over to a CFM is then added up over all of the leaks that are identified. Say there's 10, 20 leaks. We sum that CFM, and then we look at what trim compressor is trimming the system. And it could be a VFD compressor, which gives you some of the highest reductions of kW per CFM, or it could be a modulating compressor, which gives you very little savings per CFM. And it could be anything in between there. So that's when I said the workbook has been reviewed and approved, that methodology of converting decibels to CFM to determine what kW reduction you have at the compressor is kind of an approved method, and that's how we do
Okay.
that.
Okay, very good. I'm going to take a moderator's prerogative here, and I've got a question for Augusta. Just, it sounds like what SEAL does is kind of standalone. Do you interact with utility programs, like incorporate incentives into customer packages, or do you work with some with utilities, or is it just strictly a market outside that program realm?
Yeah, absolutely. So we were founded and started our base in New York. So we actually have partnerships with every IOU in New York, in the state of New York, and we are expanding those relationships. So we partner with utilities to provide performance-based incentives. In many cases, we will also integrate with existing utility and state rebate programs for our customers, and we do co-marketing as well with some of our utility partners. So we definitely connect closely with them and love to work together and want to make sure that all of the energy savings we're driving are contributing to those programs.
Great. And then I'm going to circle back to a couple of questions we missed. For Allie, do I understand this correctly? The C&I refrigerant management measures do not result in energy savings, but achieve energy-related greenhouse gas emission savings and non-energy greenhouse gas savings, correct? So, for condensing units, are you replacing condensing units or just the condensing unit refrigerant? So that's a big question on a afternoon.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, so the table in my slide was perhaps a bit confusing. So the energy related greenhouse gas savings are just the kilowatt hour savings that are converted to greenhouse gas savings using the mix of our specific grid energy sources. So there are absolutely energy savings for each of those 6 measures. That's a requirement still of our existing contract with the PUC. We are funded by electric ratepayers, and so things need to save energy. We're just now able to also capture the non-energy, the refrigerant specific greenhouse gas savings as well.
Great.
And the second question, similar to what I said earlier, the condensing units that use a natural refrigerant, that's very much an emerging technology that we're just finally getting some headway on, bringing those into the US market at large. And they use CO2 as a refrigerant, which unfortunately you can't retrofit into an existing system.
Okay, I'm going to throw out one more quick question for Enoch, and then we're going to wrap up. Does Eversource plan to launch a triple pane midstream program in all 3 states, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire? So quick answer, and then we're going to wrap.
Just want to make sure you can still hear me.
Yep, we're hearing you, Enoch.
Okay, so it's in discussion, but nothing's formalized yet. We run other midstream programs, and I think we would like to. It's just working with that supply chain is very different than other supply chains. So a lot of relationships to be built on the distributor supply chain level, but more to come. And I think if we did launch a midstream triple pane or window offering, it would probably be across the 3 states, hopefully.
Okay. All right. Well, very good. Well, here's where we have the virtual applause. Thank you all presenters. This has really been fascinating. And I really encourage all you listening in. Again, a main purpose of this was to introduce you to some of these products and services and to make connections. So I know we have a very friendly panel here that will be happy to follow up with you should you contact them directly to learn more. And so with that, I'll close this session and encourage you all to stick around in 15 minutes when our closing plenary kicks off. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.